Good afternoon. My name is Stephanie Wilkinson, Manager of Communications and Media with the Saskatchewan Public Safety Agency. Today, the SPSA will provide an overview of the wildfires in the province. I would also like to note that we are live streaming and recording the call. The recording will be posted on our Facebook and YouTube pages following this call. Today, we'll hear from SPSA's President and Fire Commissioner Marlo Pritchard and Premier Scott Moe. We also have here with us today the Honorable Tim McLeod, Minister of Corrections, Policing and Public Safety, SPSA's Vice President of Operations, Steve Roberts, and Chief Marshal Rob Cameron of the Saskatchewan Marshals Service. We do have a hard stop at 2:15 today, so we'll ask members of the media to ask one question, and if we have time afterwards, we will go to follow-ups. With that, I will turn it over to Marlo Pritchard for our first update.
Good afternoon, everyone. As of today, 11 o'clock today, we have 24 active wildfires. We have 247 fires to date. For a 5-year average, we have had 139. So again, as you've heard us say the last number of days, you can see that we are having an extremely busy early season start for our wildfire season. I'm going to go into the fires of note and then I'll circle back into the evacuations. In our fires of note, we have the Shoe Fire, which is in the Lower Fishing Lake area. It is currently 471,418 hectares in size. It is not contained. It is impacting Sask power infrastructure near the distribution line of Highway 106. SaskTel is also impacted in the same area with some infrastructure. And there are highways and roads that are also impacted, 912, 913, and 165. That does not mean they're closed, that they are impacted at an occasion, and that you should be checking with a highway hotline just to make sure that they are open. We have the J. Smith, which is northeast of Missinippi. Current size is 136,800 hectares. We are currently protecting values in the area, including Sask Power is being impacted. SaskTel is also working on lines in the area, and Highway 102 North is being impacted, and the community of Brabant. The Ditch Fire, which is near Weaquin, is 134,869 hectares in size. It's classified as not contained. Sask Power has a line on an infrastructure that is being impacted. The communities that are impacted are Ramsey Bay, Timber Bay, and Malinosa. Highways that are impacted, Highway 2 North and 969. And again, just a reminder that check with your highway hotline to see if those are open. We have the Pisu Fire, which is the west of La Ronge. Current size is 152,326 hectares in size. It is not contained. The communities, these tri-communities, Hall Lake, Namibin, Sucker River, Wadden Bay, and Stanley Mission are all impacted, as well as the highway or the roads 102 and 910. The Wolf Fire, west of Denair Beach, is currently sized at 71,130 hectares, not contained. It is also impacting the Ferran mine site and the highways and roadways 106 and 167, and of course the impact of Denair, the community of Denair Beach. We also have the Pelican Narrows Fire. Current size is 34,000 hectares, not contained. The highways is 13 South and 106 that are being impacted. And the final fire that I'll speak of today is the Club Fire, which is north of Creighton. Current size is 17,327 hectares. That's on the Saskatchewan side. On the Manitoba side is 60,537. It's classified as not contained, and it is impacting Creighton and Flin Flon. We currently have over 30 communities that are evacuated. The impacts or the individuals that are impacted are still estimated between 10 and 15,000 people that are being supported by SPSA, communities, or Red Cross. We are reporting that in excess of 400 values, whether that be cabins, permanent residents, lodges, or vehicles have been either destroyed or damaged in these fires. And about 267 of them have been confirmed. We're still assessing and doing verification work to truly understand the impacts of these fires. We do have a couple communities that we are working closely with in regards to repatriation. The situation has stabilized. So to ensure that there's a seamless transition to get as many people back into their communities as quickly and safely as possible, SPSA will be working with those community leaders to ensure that they are aware of the current situation and that when it is safe to do so, that they can start bringing their citizens back. As a reminder, if there is any questions in regards to any of the wildfires, around evacuations, issues or concerns around evacuations, the number to call is 1-855-559-5502. We are manning those phone lines from about 8 in the morning to 8 at night, and we will hopefully have the answer for you, and if not, we will get that answer as soon as possible. And with that, I will turn it over to the Premier for comments.
Yeah, I would just pick up on a couple of things that Marlo Pritchard has said. First is to reiterate that phone number, 1-855-559-5502. If you have been evacuated from your home and your community and you're looking for information, that is a starting point and a starting phone call for you to make. In addition to that, as we know, the province has provided $15 million in supports to the Red Cross, Canadian Red Cross, as the federal government as well is providing up to $30 million in supports to them, to the Red Cross as well, to help support the Saskatchewan, the SPSA with our evacuation efforts and ultimately to help support evacuees, people that are not in their home here today. Their number is 1-800-863-6582. The Red Cross is working to set up a 500-person congregate emergency shelter, one in Saskatoon, I believe one in Regina, another one in Prince Albert as well. And they also will be able to support you as you are displaced from your home in the way of grocery carts and other supports that you might need. And so those numbers are first the SPSA 1-855-559-5502 and the Canadian Red Cross 1-800-863-6582. And so if you are displaced from your home and are looking for information and or supports, please dial one of those numbers. They're there to help and support you and your family. The second point I'd like to make with respect to a comment that we have made over the few times over the course of the past week is that many, if not virtually all of the fires that we're dealing with in Saskatchewan are, although not intentionally, are human caused. And some of those have been intentionally human caused. And there's the RCMP have informed us that they have now charged a couple of individuals, one with respect to some fires that were being started in the Smeaton-Snowden area, and another individual that started the fire that originated out of Weaquin, which is known as the Ditch Fire, which is a significant fire that is encroaching on the community of L'Orange in the next while. Last, but certainly not least, I do want to speak to, as well as I'm hearing and I've talked to a few folks that are, asking about, should we call in the military and what supports could the federal government and or the military provide to the effort that we have here. And I've talked with other leaders across Canada and the federal government as recently as this morning with respect to what supports we may need and what supports might be available. But first and foremost, I think it's important for us to acknowledge that on the provincial emergency operations call each and every morning, and there's 3 of these calls a day, but each and every morning there is what they call a POC call, where Public Safety Canada, as well as our Saskatchewan military liaison, is on that call and is in constant contact with the SPSA here in Saskatchewan, talking about what supports might be available and would be helpful to the cause in protecting our communities, our homes, and ultimately protecting Canadians that live in the northern part of Saskatchewan. In Manitoba, Have we seen that support materialize in the way of a Hercules aircraft to evacuate a community that no longer had road access? And you hear Marlo and Steve talk about the importance of road access into northern communities. And when a fire hinders that or makes it inoperable at times, how vital that is for getting supplies in as well as getting people out should we need to in a short period of time. That was a challenge in a couple of Manitoba communities, and they were able to bring a Hercules in to move people out by air. Should that be the situation in a Saskatchewan community, we would be able to access those resources as well. And up until now, we've been fortunate in the way that we have been able to preserve largely road access for any potential evacuations and for getting supplies into those communities as well. Second, there's always conversations around firefighters, and what we continue to request for in Saskatchewan is Type 1 and Type 2 firefighters, which are very highly trained in the efforts to keep our communities safe. And then Type 3 firefighters is what Manitoba has requested to some degree, and are receiving some supports from the Canadian military. We're very fortunate in this province for the work, and credit goes not only to the Saskatchewan Public Safety Agency, but to leaders like Grand Chief Brian Hardlot with the PAGC, Tammy Cook-Searson at Lac La Ronge, Joyce Natal McLeod at Montreal Lake, and many others in the partnerships that we've had over the last number of years in training Type 3 firefighters, often from northern communities, largely from northern communities, and often from Indigenous communities as well, where we have a large number of not only Type 3 firefighters that live and reside in the north that are helping with the efforts that we have today, and are going to help, I would say, even in a more significant way should we find our path to a rainfall. But we've also, through that effort, been able to secure a number, over 400 Type 2 firefighters that live in a northern community, and as I say, largely are Indigenous as well. And so that partnership is one that has been successful in years gone by and has provided us with access to a number of Type 2 and Type 3 firefighters that other provinces simply don't have. Peter Ballantyne has been part of that agreement as well, training and recertifying a number of those firefighters. Requests that have been discussed, as I said earlier, the Public Safety Canada and the Saskatchewan Military Liaison are on that provincial emergency operations call each and every day, is access to Type 1 and Type 2 firefighters, of which the federal government doesn't have much in the way of resources in that space. And we've asked if there was any, for example, at CFB Dundurn or Moose Jaw, and very little in the way of resources at the federal level in that space. However, we are looking at even additional resources coming in from a couple of U.S. states and another contingent from across Canada in the days ahead, of those very specialized firefighters that are going to help with the efforts that are on the ground here today. Also talked with the federal government around, should we find ourselves in a place in the days ahead where RCMP officers, for example, might be called to provide security at a G7 summit, for example, in Banff, where we have international leaders coming into Canada. Starting to have that discussion with the military as to, could they have a presence in Saskatchewan and in our communities and do some of the work in supporting the evacuation, structured and orderly evacuation should we need them in the days ahead. And so it's an ongoing conversation. It's never a yes or no, we're not or we are procuring or asking for military or federal supports. It's a conversation that is very fluid, and it happens at 9 o'clock every morning. And then occurs as well throughout the day should the needs change. And so we're thankful, I think, of the federal government's indication that those supports would be there should they be able to provide them and should we need them in this province. And we're also thankful equally, I think, for the military's engagement in providing them should they have them as well. And that support, I would say, goes through to the political level right up to and including a conversation I had with the Prime Minister about an hour and a half ago. So as we look ahead through the next number of hours, some a little bit of relief maybe in the weather as the wind continues to blow. Maybe a few raindrops will fall over the next hours and the next few days, and hopefully it is going to provide our firefighters with an opportunity to further secure the communities that are in the line of this very awful fire. In their efforts to protect people, to protect communities, to protect road access in and out of those communities, but at the end of the day, to protect you, your family, and to protect your home. And so thank you to all of the firefighters, the volunteers, the guys manning the planes across Saskatchewan in the fight that they've been in for far too many weeks already, and not really a significant end in sight at this point in time. Thank you.
Thank you, Premier and Marlo. So now we will move into questions in the room first. So may I ask for your name and outlet?
Yes, I have one. Okay, now. My question is regarding your call out, I think it was last week, for more people that were trained or had been trained in the past for firefighting. What kind of response did you get from those firefighters, and how long did it take to get them operational?
Give it to Steve.
Steve.
So we was mentioned that when we get the reprieve from some rain, cooler weathers, the specialized firefighters we brought in that are securing the lines will be augmented with these Type 3 firefighters that are already trained. Thousands of them are trained in this province. So we won't be putting a call out to collect them together and assign them to start working on these areas that are safe, and we can start to secure them. So it was kind of I would say a preparation discussion, is that we will be looking for your help at some point. We will be putting call outs out, and then sort of, again, the call out may be very specific. Like, we want 35 firefighters ready for tomorrow to go to Pelican Narrows as an example. So folks that obviously work or live near that area would be the first people that would step forward in most cases and say, I'll go protect my community if there's a spot for me. So we will be working, coordinating that. But up until this point, we've unfortunately had to say we're not ready yet because the fires have been so active and so volatile.
Keith Gordon, Global News. Premier, a lot of the evacuees that I've spoken to say that one of the biggest things that they're having issues with is communication, making sure they have the right information needed. Would bringing in federal help with that situation? I guess what is the message that you have for evacuees that are finding, I guess, communication the hardest part for them?
Yeah, what we would potentially look at in the days ahead for federal help, whether it be military, personnel on the ground, was if we, for example, when there was a large-scale evacuation out of the Tri-Cities, Larange, Orange, and Lac-La-Ronge the other evening, moving literally 8,000 people out of a community, and there was a convoy line from literally Prince Albert to Larange that evening. It takes a lot of organization in order for that to go smoothly and safely, driving through smoke areas, driving through an active fire with the ditch fire on the way. And the RCMP are a part of that. And then also the RCMP are part of ensuring the communities are safe, whether they're evacuated or not, throughout the north. Should we have, a call, for example, where, some Saskatchewan RCMP resources need to be, because they are a national force, to be deployed in other areas in Canada, we, may lean on the military personnel to help us to organize an evacuation such as that, for example. In order for that to happen, we would likely have to have the call and have them on the ground here ready to go at a moment's notice, as these evacuations aren't providing us with a lot of notice. With respect to supporting individuals that are evacuated in the flow of information, what we are attempting to do is to provide really those two phone numbers. One is the SPSA, which will provide you with evacuation information, relevant fire information relevant to your community. But but also the Red Cross, that we have provided a significant investment alongside the federal government and alongside the government of Manitoba as well, so that they can support the SPSA efforts and ultimately support evacuees, people that are displaced from their home, whether that be with a card to purchase some groceries, purchase some fuel, whatever that might be. And so the Red Cross certainly has a significant role to play here, not only in the existing contracts that they have, for example, with Peeler Ballantine members, but with provincial evacuees as well, and in supporting the SPSA efforts in supporting those individuals and families. I think back to 10 years ago, and I was in government at that point in time, when we had probably the last significant large-scale evacuation like we were facing today, and we're probably now approaching in the vicinity of the 17,000 people that were evacuated 10 years ago. We might not quite be there yet, but we're getting into those types of numbers, which are significant and which do require a multitude of supports, and everybody working together to support one another, whether it be a family member, whether it be the Canadian Red Cross Association, whether it be the SPSA and the efforts that we have, or various communities as well. And so we're getting now into that space where congregate emergency shelters are starting to become part of the conversations if we should see another significant evacuation. If we are short to some degree of maybe some RCMP officers in certain area, and the marshals aren't able at this point to have enough members to provide that security, and that may be part of the conversation on one of the daily calls that the SPSA has with our federal military liaison and the Canada Public Safety Agency. And so those are the things and the conversations that are happening on a daily basis. So short answer to your questions, I don't know that the military would help with communication. We want to have those 2 phone numbers there to support evacuees and to provide information of their community and supports that are available. And 2 is the military may have a role to play in the days ahead should we see any further evacuations, and that's really what we're preparing for, and what the investment was in the Canadian Red Cross Association is let's start looking at unfortunately congregate emergency shelters. Let's start looking at how we're going to work very collaboratively, and asking less questions about where you might be evacuating from and how actually we can just support you.
Well, that's really another technical question. I'm always asking Marlo and Steve questions.
Yeah.
So it was, you didn't reveal the places that were possibly being repatriated, and was that to just not cause a panic or something like that? And also, the number on structures hasn't moved very much, but you talked about confirmed structures being 267. So does that mean that the number could go up as something like that?
That'll be 2 questions, but yeah, we'll take them.
No.
That's it.
Very smooth.
Yeah. No, it was we did not announce the communities today in regards to repatriation. SPSA is in contact with some community leaders, and we will determine whether it is safe. And then once that is, determined that the safe and the community leaders are in agreement that they're going to repatriate their citizens, then we'll make the announcements at that point in time. But you're right, we're not going to get ahead of that in the media, in all fairness, but we do want to say that there are communities that are getting near that point, or that the safety has increased or the risk has decreased to the point where we are considering repatriation of some communities. The second question in regards to the values is, yes, we are verifying as we speak. There is a number of activities going on to verify what that number is. So we anticipate that it'll be over 400, but the ones that are verified at this point in time is 267. There's a significant amount of work that has to go into that, and we'll continue to report on that as it goes forward.
Okay, now we will go over to Teams for questions. Okay, so first we have Edith. Please, 1 question and identify your outlet.
Hi, I'm Edith from Radio-Canada, CBC French. We have
Edith,
a lot
can you
of...
hear me?
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Yes. Shit. You cannot hear me?
We got you.
Okay, sorry for the bad word. Yes, in the last 24 hours, we had a lot of confusion. There were alerts coming back and forth regarding area that were already under an evacuation order. So not only can you explain what the confusion was about, but can you clarify what triggered the new order, or is La Ronge for the La Ronge area, is the road closed or not? And is La Ronge evacuated again? And can you be a lot more explicit about what's going on? Thank you.
I could maybe speak to that, because and there was a second Sask alert that went, I think really re-solidifying the serious situation that the tri-communities of La Ronge, Ronge, and Lac La Ronge are faced with. And I did notice that when the second Sask alert went, when the fire greatly encroached into the community, and we saw the loss, unfortunately, of a couple of commercial buildings, including the iconic, from what I understand, is Robertson Trading Post has been one of the losses in the community. That was when the second Sask alert did come out, and the community was already evacuated the evening before, largely, if not virtually everyone except for those that are essential. But I did notice the second Sask alert did come out the next day, and it was about the time that the fire did encroach into the community. And so that was I suspect, a reminder that if you are there and missed the first alert and the convoy out, is just not a safe place to be. Would that be fair to say, Marlo?
Yeah, you've got it, Premier.
I would just add to that, I've talked with the Chief Tammy Cook-Searson and Mayor Herdesky again early this morning. They've had some flare-ups there again today, and by no means is are we in the clear when it comes to the tri-community area, and the folks on the ground, municipal, provincial firefighters and the volunteers and the local leadership are doing everything they can to keep the fire out of the community in La Ronge, and changing winds and continued conditions is a very challenging and very live situation in that community, and now I think, in fairness, in the days ahead, communities around.
Okay, Jillian, you're up next.
Hi, Jillian Massey from 980 CJME. Premier Moe, the day that the state of emergency was called, you said that you expected things were going to get worse before it gets better. I just want to gauge how you're feeling at this point. Does that statement still ring true today?
Yeah, unfortunately, I was correct. Since that point in time, we've seen significant loss of homes in numerous communities. We've seen the large-scale evacuation of La Ronge, Ronge, and Lac La Ronge, as well as other communities, and we see with shifting winds, additional communities coming under threat of this very, very volatile situation, and the fires that we have that are, continue to join and just sweep across our north, and they're relentless in what they engulf on their way. And so, as we look ahead, I would still say we have some challenging time ahead of us. Hopefully, and maybe, and this might be more hope than fact, I see some sprinkles of rain, small amounts of rain in the La Ronge area, and I'm hopeful that they will extend over into the eastern side of the province to address some of that area in and around, the Creighton and up and down the eastern side of the province. It isn't enough rain to get us into a position where we're confident, I would say. But any rain is certainly better than what we've had the last number of days with very hot temperatures, dry and windy. So now we have the wind and a little bit cooler temperatures and some sprinkles of rain, and I would hope that the forecast is wrong and that the clouds open up and absolutely douse the northern part of not only our province, but God willing, the northern part of the prairie provinces. So I would say, still challenging days ahead of us. slightly more hopeful than maybe I was a week ago, but we're not in any way in the clear yet.
Aishwarya?
Good afternoon. The FSIN and the NDP have joined the call asking you to request federal help. People are having a hard time accepting that there wouldn't be any use of the military right now when we've had so many fires and a lot of evacuees feeling like they're not getting support or services. So we'd like to ask you again, why not call them now? And what would it take for you to make the call?
What did they say that the military would do?
They can support. That's what I'm saying. There are so many things that are happening in the province. We're having a hard time believe they couldn't be of any use.
Yeah, well, and I guess the advice I would take on this, and Marlo, you might want to speak to this as well, is at 9:00 every morning, our Saskatchewan Public Safety Agency, as well as many other government agencies, local municipal agencies as well, are on a provincial emergency operations call, alongside the Public Safety Canada, as well as our Saskatchewan military liaison, discussing precisely what assets could be offered by the federal government, and whether or not those assets could be utilized in certain areas. I spoke to the fact that in the days ahead, there may be some use of military boots on the ground, so to speak, or military personnel to really backfill potentially some of the RCMP efforts in conducting evacuations, organizing evacuations, and ensuring our communities remain peaceful. That would be in addition to the efforts that are happening today by the RCMP and the Saskatchewan Marshals, also augmented by municipal police forces. But should we lose some of the RCMP forces to, for example, something like providing security at the G7, we may look at a military resource in that space. But all of the other discussions, and I ran through them earlier, are some of the resources that we could use. The military just simply, or the federal government in some cases, can't provide. If there is a resource that is available from the federal government or the military that is going to help with the efforts, we certainly want to use it. And we've requested, if there, for example, there was some some professional firefighting expertise, people, human resources, and equipment at CFB Dundurn or Moose Jaw. And you've had that conversation as recently as today or yesterday, Marlo. We could utilize that in a community like La Ronge. There doesn't seem to be those resources at this point in time, but there may be a need in the days ahead. And certainly, I would say, when it comes to Type 1, Type 2 firefighters, helicopters, and water bombing aircraft, thank you and I would just include everyone across Canada and many states in the U.S., to the various pacts and agreements that we have across North America. That is where the resources are and have been available, and we have, probably close to 50 aircraft in the air each and every day throughout northern Saskatchewan, likely in the neighborhood of 1,000 plus highly qualified firefighters that are on the ground battling to save not only a northern Saskatchewan community, but to save, quite likely in many cases, their own community. And they are fighting, and they are fighting very, very hard. In addition to that, we can add in the days ahead as well a number of Type 3 firefighters to help us with some of the after efforts, I think you would call them. And thank you to local leaders like PAGC, Peter Ballantyne, and others that have partnered with the SPSA to train a number of Type 3 firefighters as well. And so it isn't about not requesting assets from the federal government or not requesting assets from the military. It's about what assets are available and how we could utilize them here. And I also walked through what assets, for example, Manitoba might be utilizing, and should we need them here, they'd be available as well. It's just simply we've been able to preserve road access, so we haven't needed a Hercules to move people out of their community like they had, unfortunately, in a northern Manitoba community. So, Marlo, anything more to add to that on your conversations daily with those agencies?
Thank you, Premier. Yeah, I can just quickly confirm that I'm in contact with representatives from Public Safety Canada on a daily basis. basis, have been for the last week or more. I have also spoke just as recently as yesterday with the Saskatchewan Military Liaison Officer to really understand what the resource availability is from the military and what equipment that they could bring on to help our fight against these wildfires. And as we've heard from the military, they're stretched. We've got the G7 going on. We have made inquiries to see what assets the military would have in or near the province of Saskatchewan. And as the Premier said, we continually look at what is currently needed to either protect communities or combat the devastating wildfires that are going on. We are utilizing our existing compacts and SPSA, which is really bringing across trained assets, whether that be Type 1 firefighters, planes, helicopters, from our Canadian partners, as well as many states through those compacts that we have developed over many years. So we're having primarily highly trained individuals, specialized trained to address those issues. That will, but that doesn't say that we will not, as the Premier mentioned, that doesn't mean that may not change moving forward. But right now, our conversations will continue with Public Safety Canada. We will continue to work with our Saskatchewan Military Liaison and looking at the current needs and resource requests that are coming into through our SPSA process, I guess, in regards to dealing with the different communities. The other aspect that I didn't mention, and it needs to be mentioned, and a big thank you to them, is we have the whole province stepping forward, the municipal fire services that are embedded in these communities. We have them in Creighton right now. We have them in Larange. They're adding that extra layer of defense. They're structurally trained firefighters. That's what they do. They've brought their equipment to this battle, and they are doing a heck of a job protecting property and lives. And we will continue to expand that as the need requires. So we have a number of trained individuals that we can access right here in the province, going into the Type 3 firefighters, probably before we need to look at the military for firefighting skills. But as the Premier said, we will be looking at them, and we continue to look at them for other possible supports when we find a gap. So I'll stop there.
I just add one other comment to that. This came up at our meeting on Monday with the other premiers and the Prime Minister. And as I said, I spoke with Prime Minister Carney again this morning about a number of topics, including the fire situation here in Saskatchewan. And I thank him for his continued support. Should we need resources, he would, and should they be able to provide either at the federal or military level, that they'd make those available. But I would point towards a couple of other items. First was the discussion we had, and I brought it up earlier this week at our meeting, was, should we look at, and I think Saskatchewan would be interested in, funding our portion of a significant tanker fleet, a national tanker fleet that is available to provinces in times like this. And last year it was Northwest Territories and I believe even Quebec in the last year or two that needed to draw on resources from other areas. We have the agreements in place, not only the Canadian but the North American agreements on how we would share those assets. And should we as provinces and the national government look at having a significant base, or significant number of tanker, large air tankers that are available for provinces when they need them, and even more broadly for North Americans. Also, I would say we had ordered and budgeted for 4 significant upgrades to our tanker fleet, 4 tankers that will be coming over the next number of years. One of those will be arriving here this spring in the days ahead, and it'll be made available as soon as it is able. I was talking with another province the other day that are just placing their order now, and those orders and those assets won't be available till post 2030, and so it very much is a tight space in accessing any significant volume or value of new planes in the near future. So thankfully we did put an order in, and one of those will be arriving sooner rather than later. But I to your point on national assets and what's available, there is a broader conversation for us to have. We had it 2 or 3 years ago as premiers, and it might be time to have it again, and I brought it up Monday.
If I may respond to the Premier's question previously.
Sorry, no follow-ups right now because of time. Sorry, we'll go on to Olivier Pierre.
Hi, around 15,000 people have already been evacuated because of the wildfire. Typically, how many people are evacuated at this point in the season? Like, when was the last time the province had 15,000 wildfire evacuees in this early in June?
2015, 10 years ago, I think we had 17,000 people evacuated in the province. I think Manitoba is in that 17 to 20,000 range today as we speak as well.
Nicole Garn.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So yeah, Nicole Garn with 980 CJME. You know, just speaking more generally here, what have been some of the biggest challenges you've been facing for the past few days?
Operationally, Marlo or Steve, do you want to comment on that? And maybe Rob as well.
Start with Steve. Go ahead, and then I'll jump in if you.
Sure. I mean, again, as we talk about fires, the fires that are causing the biggest concern are not our typical spring fires that are, 0 to 10 hectares in size. These are extremely large, which means they have a lot of area that are creating impacts. They also have lots of area where one corner alone could take a run because of some wind. And we're talking about a 10,000 hectare change in fire. So we have to regroup, re-strategize, and then having them in sort of different geographic locations where we may be limited by access. So the ditch fire is accessible off Highway 2, but the shoe fire is not. So even though they would look close on a map, how we support them, how we deliver them, how we protect them are different. And the day starting first thing in the morning right till dark at night is looking at priorities, looking at requests for resources, shifting those priorities. So ditch fire is good at 2 o'clock and everything's looking great. And we're working on the L'Orange fire. And at 3 o'clock, we're getting requests for air tanker support on the ditch fire. And L'Orange is starting to look a little better because of the activity. So constantly moving the resources around, including those aircraft. And I guess that's the biggest part that's impacting is there is a huge oversight management structure to make sure we're doing the right thing in the right place at the right time, consistently, day after day after day.
Just a couple from the evacuation. I mean, you mentioned about some of the challenges. We continue to support the evacuees. We have a number of Government of Saskatchewan employees that have been seconded into roles to support those evacuees. We are strengthening our 1855 line, which again to the earlier question around communication. So those are all ongoing challenges that we continue to address through extra resources and tightening up that process so we can ensure that the citizens of Saskatchewan are getting the most timely and accurate information as possible, and that the evacuees are supported the best that we can 24/7 while they're out of their communities.
I think for the Marshals Service, it's a lot like the Public Safety Agency. It's really trying to predict what's going to happen and when it's going to happen, and ensuring that we have the resources to fulfill our mandate of providing support to our law enforcement agencies. In this case, the RCMP in the L'Orange area. We've been on the ground there in L'Orange and providing support to our RCMP colleagues. And fires is a difficult thing to sometimes predict, and for us, it's making sure that we can provide the resources and have people well rested and prepared to go into the areas we need to go. And so our operational commanders every day are looking at that, communicating with the RCMP through their Division Emergency Operations Center, and communicating with the SPSA to ensure that we're communicating the best information back and forth, and we know the situational awareness, or we have the situational awareness to put our resources where they need to be, and that's a challenge, of course, for anybody to do.
This is precisely where the marshals have a place in Saskatchewan, the Saskatchewan Marshals Service, in supporting our SAMP enforcement agency and those members on the ground in a place where you might need 3 or 5 or 10 or down the way even 20 members in a short period of time, like we are experiencing in certain communities right now. I would say 3 things that I've found challenging, and I'll leave the operations to the SPSA and the Saskatchewan Marshals and others as they are operating and allocating the close to 50 aircraft that we have, the 1,000 personnel on the ground, and liaisoning and working with all of the volunteers and the leadership in our communities. But first is keeping people safe, and behind the curtain, there's been some close calls. Where individuals have, maybe even been missing for a period of time, and credit to all involved at the community level, the provincial level, and we have had no direct deaths from the fires that are there, and that is priority number 1. But that isn't to say that there hasn't been some close calls, and so there has been some worry and some angst by families, very real worry and angst and concern by families over the course of the last number of days. 2 is, yes, supporting all of the evacuees, but supporting those that have, very high health needs. And when there's an evacuation that happens in a very short period of time, there is some incredible pressures on, our ambulatory service and EMTs and, our STARS Air Ambulance, all of the resources that we have in getting those patients that are having health concerns already and now in a smoky, fire-filled environment out. I think of the other night when, at 2:30 in the morning, we had the last patient out, and he was literally running out of oxygen, and needed that. And so credit to all involved in that, Steve, to your team through the SPSA, Tim, some of the phone calls that you were making with our counterpart, Minister Cockrell, and the Saskatchewan Health Authority, and STARS Ambulance, as well as our ground guys, that all work together to ensure that not only that individual, but so many others were able to leave their community safely in very, very short notice. And last but not least, and Minister McLeod, you've had these conversations as well, people are losing their homes and have already lost their homes. And those are the most difficult conversations to have. This fire is unbelievable in how unforgiving it is when it rolls through a community. And for anyone that has seen videos of communities fighting it off, and unfortunately some communities that haven't been able to keep it at bay, those aren't just buildings that are in those pile of ashes. It's people's homes. It's a lifetime of memories and history and pictures and mementos and heirlooms, and it's gone. And sometimes for home after home after home after home. And so that, without a doubt, is the most difficult, I think, thing that we face any fire season, and we're facing it in larger numbers, certainly this season. And so I would say to everyone in northern Saskatchewan that we're putting every asset that we have available. Despite questions with respect to the military, every asset that we have available, whether it's air assets from across this nation and across the continent, up to 50 tankers are in the air as we speak. We have in the neighborhood of 1,000 highly qualified provincial firemen, as well as many municipal fire departments, hundreds of contractors out there building fire guards around communities for where this fire is encroaching, and that commitment to providing each and all of those assets to you that have a home or a cabin or are in the north to protect your place, your home, continues as long as we need it.
Thank you, everyone. We are at time. Have a safe rest of your day.